All right. So in new site 5, so what do we do in new site 4? What do we create? We created the ability to add a search functionality. Is that correct? And the section pages, right? Awesome. So in new site 5, we're going to continue adding on to that. But let's just talk about HTTP, like a quick review of that. So what does HTTP stand for?
Hypertext Transfer Protocol.
Yep. Awesome. And what are the different HTTP requests that can be made?
Get, post.
All right, I heard get, post.
Get it, Reno.
I think there's a put, and I think there's something else.
Delete.
Yep, delete. And there's also patch, but that's really never used. It's very similar to put. So we have get, put, post, delete. So, so what does get do?
It asks the server to provide something, usually like a web page, but it can also be like JSON objects, I think.
Yep. So there's get, just retrieves data. What does post do?
Pushes data.
It pushes data, but it also saves it to the actual database. So it pushes data. What does put do?
Update.
Yep. It updates an already saved resource in the database. So post creates a new entry in the database, put updates that entry. And then there's delete, which obviously deletes resources from the database. So far in new site, what kind of HTTP request have we been doing?
Get.
Yep, get requests. So, and how have we been doing it? What method have we been using to send HTTP requests?
The router, the route, React DOM.
Nope, not quite.
It's fetch.
It's the fetch API. So that in our the API file, we do fetch, go to a URL, and that executes an HTTP get request. Today we're going to be doing post requests, and we'll show you kind of how that works. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So today we're going to continue to build upon our new site. We're covering some of the different HTTP methods. So we've already done get requests, grabbing data from a resource from the server. So we've been going to like the localhost 3001/API/articles, and we're a filter, and we're grabbing a specific section where that section is opinion. Post creates new records, data. We pass data into the body of the request, which we haven't done yet, which we're going to do today. And then we have put patch, updating an already existing entry in the database, and deletes a record. So I'm just going to go to a specific JSON, what is it? JSON placeholder. So JSON placeholder, it's really nice. You can essentially grab data like so. So everyone should be relatively familiar with like fetch, go to a specific URL, and do the .thens. Is everyone kind of familiar with the .then portion?
Yes, sir.
Yep. And then there's also the async await as well. I think people have been doing that as well. Are you all familiar with async await?
Yes, sir.
Yep. So you can do either async await or the .then, either or. So I'm just gonna.
Is one of them preferred, Tom? Is one of them like a more recent implementation? Does it matter which one you use?
So it does not matter which one you use. However, the async await is the more recent, than the .then. So you'll start to see probably more async await going forward than the .then. But either or is totally fine. Just it kind of depends on your preference. So I'm just going to copy this fetch. I'm going to open up the console, and I'm going to do this. I'm just going to copy, paste that in here. And if I run that, I should get a response, convert that response to JSON, and then console log that response. I like to call this data instead of for whatever reason. But if I run that, I get a promise pending, and then I actually get the completed return. So this JSON placeholder, I go to do /1, and it grabs the very first to do in this list. I can also open this up and go directly to that JSON placeholder, and it should return some JSON right here as well. Doing this up here in the browser is exactly the same thing as doing this up here. But now I'm just able to actually utilize this data. Questions about doing a GET request utilizing the fetch API. Everyone kind of should be relatively familiar with that right now. All right. So now we've only been doing GET requests with the fetch API. And the fetch API right here takes in one parameter or one argument, which is the URL endpoint of the server you want to retrieve the data from. However, the fetch API can take more arguments. For example, if we want to do a post request. So I'm just going to go up here and do fetch API, MDN, Mozilla. So if you come down here, I think it's not this one, using fetch. So people should be relatively familiar with that. It's kind of what we just kind of showed. But so the fetch API can optionally accept a second parameter and a init object that allows you to control a number of different things. So here it's an object. It can take in an object. But that object could be like right here. It could be the method we're doing, all these other different items. But let's go back to the JSON placeholder and kind of scroll down and look at the post request. Where is it? So guide. So we have that. Listing all resources. So right here, creating a new resource. This is where we're going to be making post requests. So again, the first argument that we're passing in is the URL to where we want to store information on the server. And the second argument is an object with different keys on it, such as the method we're executing, such as a post request. Some headers is here, as well as the body of the request. So the body of the request is what data we're actually sending to the backend. So right here, we're sending over an object, title, body, user ID, and we have to JSON stringify it. So we have to convert this JavaScript object, which is right here, and turn it into JSON by doing the JSON.stringify. Where have we seen the JSON.stringify before?
Working with local storage.
Yep, working with local storage, because local storage can only store things as strings or JSON strings. So we can JSON stringify it. And so GET requests can only read data from the URL. So a URL that goes to post/1, since this is a GET request, it knows that it only can read from the URL pattern, and it has to say like, okay, I'm going to get the first item in the database, or the first post, or I'm going to go to the post table and receive the first entry from that database. So GET requests only read from the URL. It cannot read from the body. Whereas post requests, such as here, creating a resource or posting to the database, reads from the body of the request, where this little body key is, and this is where it reads the data from. in addition to like the posts as well. So if I go ahead and say, like, I'm just going to create a resource. So if I literally copy this, fetch like so, and input an object in there. And this object, I need to have the method, which is a post request. I'll need, whoops, let's go back up. There we go. Method, and I'll need some headers because HTTP requires the type of method you're sending over as well as some headers. So the headers is going to be an object. I'm just going to indent that like so. And there's a bunch of different type of headers you can type or pass in, but content type is the most common. And this is essentially saying, like, what type of content are you sending over in the body of the request for the post? And we're going to be sending over application/JSON. And this char set, I don't necessarily think we need that char set in there, but so I'm just going to leave it as is. And last, the main thing we need to do is in the body of the request, we need to JSON.stringify whatever we're going to pass in or whatever we want to save to the database.
Hey, Tom, does it matter what order you pass in this info?
No. So we're here, it's like method, body, headers. It does not matter. You can do body at first, headers, because this is just an object. So it's key values. So it doesn't matter the order. So like title.
Why do you have to stringify the body and not say, for example, like the headers?
That's just the way the protocol works. It's able to parse through this stuff. Yeah, I can't.
Is it the method and the headers are like standard inputs and the body could be anything?
Yeah, it's probably it. Like, honestly, when this is sent through the wire, like through the HTTP, this is literally just text. But when it goes through to like the React side or like the back end, it doesn't know, like, you can't pass a JavaScript object to a Python. So it has to have a familiar format. So we have to string it JSON. We have to convert it to JSON first. But the content type, this doesn't have to be JSON. Like, this could be, I don't know if anybody's heard of XML. There's XML, there's different type of file or data that can be sent over. There's different type of content types that you can send over. But this one, we're explicitly saying, hey, we're going to be sending over JSON. So we have to JSON, we have to convert it to JSON. First post. What else do we need? One. So we can say body. Hello. And then what is it? User ID. I'm just kind of literally copying that. And then once we pass it over, we can do the .then. We should be pretty much familiar with this. I'm just doing RESP for response, response.json. And then we can do it like another .then. I'm just doing this all in one line. Data equals console log data. I think that works. So if I did everything correctly, I go ahead, I posted it, I get a response back right here. Body says hello. This is the response that I'm getting back. The ID is 101, so that probably means that it's the 101st post saved into the database, and all the stuff is returned. So just remember, when we're making post requests, we need to include a second object argument that has a method, headers, and body at a minimum. So what questions do you have about that?
Notice within the body, there's in the example too, there's a body inside the body. Does that have to be named that way, or can it be any title within the body?
So this, the title, body, user ID, this is what is going to be the columns in your tables.
Got it.
So in this, for example, it just has title, body, user ID, but maybe in our articles, it'll have title, abstract, byline, ID, section, stuff like that. All right. Cool. All right. So with that, what do we got? Let's go ahead and actually start working on news site 5. So let's just come over here, news site 5. Let's just kind of see what we need to do. So I already forked it over to my personal one, and I already cloned it down just to get it started. So we need to create the ability to add an article to the news site. So we're no longer just getting articles. We're going to need to save one to the database. Also, let's add a login UI, but that doesn't have any actual functionality quite yet. So it might have like a login page and where a form where someone types in their username, email, or password or something like that. So we kind of went over this. We just kind of did that. So we have an article object right here. Great. So let's go ahead and do the initial setup. All right. So I've got new site 4 there. What does it say? Testing fetch. So if new site 4, you can copy over the entire source directory from new site 4 and replace it. All right. So I'm going to, here's my new site 5 and new site 4. I'm just going to delete the entire source directory in my new site 5. And I'm going to copy over. So copy over new site 4 source directory. And what I'm also going to do is just look at the package.json files in new site 4 and 5, because I may have installed some things in new site 4 that aren't currently come installed in new site 5. So it looks like I have Bootstrap, and this is over here, new site 4. This is new site 5. It looks like my Bootstrap version is newer in new site 5 or 4. So I'm just going to update new site 5's Bootstrap by literally just doing Bootstrap here. I notice I also have that moment for time to like do some time formatting, and is Bootstrap React Bootstrap is also looks like it's updated. So Bootstrap 6. I think that might be it. All right. All right, cool. So that should be good. I don't think I should have to update anything else. And if I do run into errors, we'll fix the errors as we encounter them. What questions do you have about what I just did? Nothing? All right.
Is that like the best practice for, when you're like modifying your project to like be like the next increment on, like the old one is just kind of cut, paste, and then bring in your dependencies? Or is there like a better way?
This is the probably easiest way to do it. I'm sure there's a way you can update all of these dependencies with like the most recent version. But I wouldn't necessarily rely on that because you're old. I wouldn't update all these to the most recent version just because some code might already be in new site that might break. So I would just copy and paste. You can look like just the dependencies that aren't exactly the same. All right, so I'm going to go over to new site 5. I'm going to clear the terminal. I'm going to zoom in actually, just so I'm currently in new site 5. There's my source directory. There's my package.json file. Now I'm going to do npm install. And once I install it, I'm going to start it and just make sure that it still works. All right. what questions do y'all have about anything so far? All right, as that is installing, we'll go through. So we can test fetch like so. Kind of already gives us what that is, but I don't know if I'm going to run the test because I know the tests are kind of finicky. So I'm just going to write the API and kind of test it on my own, probably using, probably use something like this. But yeah. Let's see if it's working. All right, it's still installing. All right, great. So new site 5 is installed. I've got my package lock JSON. So I'm going to npm start it, and it should run. Hopefully it still works. If it doesn't work, we'll figure out what's going on. Come on, load. It's taking a little while. All right, cool. So here's my janky new site. I've got the search bar up here, just making sure all the sections are working. Go home, click there. There's article 1, article 2. I also have this little back button down here. I can search for an article, NOS, and I've got this little alert that comes up that says how many searches my thing returned. Oh, what's going on there? That's a bug. Let's refresh that. So I just discovered a bug when there is a search, I guess when there is a query in state, and I try to go to a section, it overrides it. So, and that's just because of how I decided to implement the search functionality when it's on a section page. So when it's on a section page, if I wanted to search something, I could have only searched. So once all the businesses are displaying, I could also type in like PRAE and have it only search items in the business section that start with PRAE, but I just didn't want to do that. I have it reroute back to my homepage and just return all the articles with the, and that's just a design choice I did. You don't have to do that if you wanted to, but yeah, that was a stretch goal. Great. So just make sure most of it's still working. And maybe if there's time, I'll record me fixing that bug issue. All right, let's actually kill the server. I'm going to open this up into a new VS Code window and have it open up. And I will kind of quickly walk through my code just so we can get a baseline. So we have the article page, section page. We have the app.js, API. I'm going to open up the APIs because we're probably going to need that. All right. So app.js, there's the class-based version, and then there's the functional-based version. I have my handle search query right here, and I'm passing the handle search. This is for the query search. I'm passing the handle search in the app.nav and app.nav. My app.nav literally just has on submit props.handle search. I could do some destructuring here. Search equals props. And now I can get rid of that props. Where's the home page? I'm gonna do home page right here. I've got the query. So the home page takes in that query. I've got the use effect. The use effect either grabs all the articles and it always passes in a query, but the query's initial value is null. So I can go through my APIs. So fetch articles. If there aren't is a filter, if a filter is not passed in, the filters is null. And I have my URL pattern, kind of a little dynamic. So if the filters is null, it just returns an empty thing. Otherwise, if there is a search query, which is filters, I think that should actually, yep. Then it actually passes in whatever that filter is. And that's just, I use the dot then here. I kind of mix it up. I do some async awaits, some dot thens. All right. So just making sure everything works. And in the home page, I've got this alert message. This is the old code for when the search bar was in the home page and not in the app query, or I'm sorry, the app.nav. So that's what that's there for. I can always delete that. But this alert message is, so right here, when I first load, so if I click load, oh, whoop, I need the npm start. All right, let's hurry up. So when it first loads, this is the home page. It comes in here, fetch articles. I created a function called fetch articles asynchronously. I do a little async await. I fetch articles. This is the API. So the fetch articles API. It passes in the query, which the initial value is null. And comes through here, grabs all the articles in the database. And I set the articles to the articles.json. And then if there is a query, so that means if I actually actively search for something, I set this message state to your search returned, whatever the length of how many articles got returned. And that's why down here, hey, if there is a message, it shows that alert of how many articles returned in here. So if I do, I know it returns 6 articles. That's where that comes from. Quick questions about that aspect. Just want to make sure everything's still working. Like so, great. All right. So the next part is actually adding an article. So I need to create an API endpoint that creates an article. So I'm going to do const add article. So I'm in my articles API, and the article, what does the article API need to take in as an argument? What? Sean?
Never mind. Probably some props would potentially.
So again, this is just a.
Oh, it's an API.
This is an
mind.
API. This isn't a component. So like up here in fetch articles takes in like the filter, like the query I'm passing in a form, right? So what would the article need to take in if I wanted to add an article?
Input, maybe?
And what do you mean by input?
Wouldn't it be like a full-on object?
Yeah, it'll be an article object. It'll be an article, some object with like title, byline, abstract, whatever we want to add in there. So it'll be like an article object. And that object will literally, I'll kind of show you. It'll look like and it'll look like something like title, like some, like this is a title, maybe byline. This is a byline, and maybe abstract. And then this is a, so literally we'll take in a new article. So that's what that will look like when we get to it. So we get that. And so now we can, I'm just kind of look over here. So it looks like here in this example, we need to go to localhost 3001/articles. Is it API/articles? So like up here, I've got a const URL that's assigned to that URL endpoint because all of the URLs start with localhost 3001 API/articles. All right, so with that, I'll probably want to, I can do you guys, what do you guys want to do? You want to do like a try catch? Do you want to do async await with a try catch or like a dot then? Does anybody have a preference?
What, in your opinion, is the easiest to implement?
Probably async await. So I'll just do async await. Async with a try catch. Try, and then if there's an error, catch the error, console.error, error. All right, so with that, I'll async article object, and I'll do let response equals await fetch to the URL. And then, so, and I'll probably do both, just to kind of show you what it looks like. Fetch to the URL right here. And then I also need to pass in an object, and that object will have some headers, and the headers will be like the content type, and it'll be application/JSON. The method, what kind of method are we doing?
Post.
We're doing a post request. And then lastly, in the body of the request is where we're going to pass in this article object, like so, but we also need to JSON.stringify this. So JSON.stringify, like that. All right, and then once we get the response back, we need to convert the response to JSON, or not convert it to JSON, convert it from a JSON object to a JavaScript object. So we can say data equals response.json, and then maybe just return the data like so. And I think that's all we need to do for right now. And let's go ahead and test this. And I'm going to use Postman to do it. So over here, we have Postman. Let's cancel that. So again, I need to go to the article http/localhost. And so like so, I'm doing a post request. I've got my headers. Is that all the headers are? Tom's post request. Oh, here are the headers. So we have content type. So I'm just going to keep the headers as is. And in the body, I kind of showed it. We had the title. This is a title. What else do we need? A byline. This is a byline. And this is already formatted in JSON for us, and then abstract. and you need, this is an abstract. So I'm doing that in JSON. I'm doing it in raw, and this is going to be in the body of the requests. You can add it in form data, but I'm just doing it in raw right now, but it's JSON. And if I created this correctly, hopefully I did. If I send it, I should get a response. I should get this data back. And let's see. And if we look also down here, I just want to see something real quick. If I go to section, it doesn't go anywhere. Anyway, nope, not that. Where'd it go? So this is Postman. Should have seen this by now, but if I click send, awesome. Down here in the body of the request, I actually got a successful return, which I've got the title, I've got this created date. So this is coming from the server. So the server put a date timestamp on it and added an ID to it. Now, if I come over here to new site and I click home, and if I scroll all the way down, I have it right here. So it got saved. That means it's working correctly. What questions do you have about what I just did? About making post requests using fetch?
The reciprocal side of this was all built in like the API server, like that just exists. If that didn't receive the post request and create the object and so on, we would have to do that. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the server in this challenge has already been created for you, and you can look into, like, if you look at new site 5, you can see like API server, and if you like went in here, you'd be able to like see. Like, you'd be able to find all the articles and stuff in here. Oh, what the hell? Like, if you actually looked at the server.
I think it's in boot.
Is it in boot? So sample articles, JSON. So here, these are the articles that's retrieving from the actual API. And you can probably come down here. Yeah, anyway. So this is the server. It's a node server. It's not like a Python server. This is just built into our application right now, just so you can get an API up and running. All right. Yeah, good question. What other questions do you have? All right. All right, let's come down here. We don't need the Postman anymore. We're able to see our title or our new post. And let's go here. So we just created a new post. Now we actually have to create a page with a form where we actually can create a title or a new article and actually like an actual page to type in and create a new article. So with that, I'm going to come over here, and in our pages, I'm going to create a new component called why is it doing that? Am I touching something on my keyboard? Pages, add article. Oh my gosh, why is it? It's annoying. Add article page.js. So there's my add article page component. Does anybody have a preference whether I should do this in a functional based component or class based component?
Functional, if you wouldn't mind.
Function.
I do mind. No, I'm just joking. RCS, React snippets, great. Provides me a template of a React functional based component. Add article page. I'm just putting that as a placeholder. I'm already exporting it. All right. I'm going to split the screens there. All right. So, and now I'm going to open up my app.js file. So come down here. I've got this render homepage. You can, yeah. So down here, I'm going to create a new path to add article. And when I go to localhost 3000 / add article, I want it to render, not render, I want it to component. I want it to render the add article page like so. If I scroll up at the very top, my add article page has already been imported for me by default. I'm going to do that. All right. Great. So I came into app.js, created a new route, add article, the component. I'm rendering the add article page component. I'm importing the add article page component at the very top. So when I go to add /add -article, it should just render add article page right here. I should make this an H1 tag as well, not a ha tag. Oh, geez. All right. So have an add article page right here. So now I'm going to manually go to add -article, and I should get to the add article page. All right. So what questions do you have about anything you've saw on here that didn't make sense?
Yeah, can I take a look at your method for add articles again, please?
The fetch?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
Yep. I also should be exporting this as well. So I need to come down here and export the add article page because I'm going to have to use that in probably the add article page component. All right. Let's see. All right. So now let's go ahead and kind of flush out the add article page. So in here, we'll probably want to create a form to do some stuff. All right. So I'm using React Bootstrap. So React Bootstrap, I'm just going to kind of use a pre-built form that they probably already have. So I'm coming down here. I'm looking for a form. I see forms right here. I'm going to click on that. All right. So this is what one of the forms looks like. Form control. I'm just going to come up here and use this form as a template and kind of make adjustments to it as I need to. All right, so there we go. I'll probably need to import form from React Bootstrap. I'll probably need to import a button as well. Button like so. Is there anything else? All right. Doesn't look like. So here we go. We have something like that. But now let's actually kind of change what we actually need. So I want this to be a title. I want the byline and an abstract. So let's go ahead and delete some stuff. So I'm going to delete the checkbox right here. I don't need this form text. So I'm going to delete that as well. I just kind of want to look at what it looks like now. It looks a little bit better. Form label. So here will be title. The type won't be text, or it won't be email, it'll be text. I want a placeholder to say title. And down here, control ID. I don't know what control ID is, but I'm just going to leave it as is and say byline. And type is not a password. It's going to be a text. And it's going to say byline. And the last one I need to create another one. What do we, instead of byline, we'll do abstract and abstract. like so. Let's kind of look at what this looks like. Looks a little bit better. Maybe I'll add some styling to it. Should I copy that class name, go in the form, add some margin to the form. All right, we got that. Maybe I'll also do that to the H1 tag as well. There we go. That's a little bit better. I think that's not too bad. All right. Yeah, that's good enough for now. All right. Now we need to create a function and that extracts this stuff from the form and stores it somewhere. So with that, I'm going to create a const handle form submit. And this is going to take in an event and do something with it. So in this handle form submit, I need to extract the title, byline, and abstract from the form and store it into an article object. And then I'll need to pass that article object into the add article API method. So that's what I'm going to have to do for that. So I'm going to do const article object equals, I'm going to need a title, and I'm going to somehow have to extract the form data, or essentially extract the title from the form somehow. I'm just going to keep that title, byline, and what was it, abstract? All right. Oh, oops. Does anybody know how I can extract the title, byline, and abstract from the form?
Get element by
control ID.
Control ID, I heard. No, I don't. I heard get element by ID. Let's actually just console log the event that's in here, like so. And this handle form submit is going to be on this form. So I'm going to say like on submit, execute this handle form submit function. So a form has an on submit attribute. So when I actually click this button, so this form, so from here to here, everything within here is considered within the form. And this button here, it's a type of submit. So when I click this button submit, the entire form will submit. So when I click this button submit, it's going to run this on submit method, or this attribute on submit, and it's going to execute this function on handle form submit. So if I had this button outside of this form, it wouldn't work. It needs to be within the form tag. So with that, let's just open up the terminal or the console. Whoa, form is not defined. Let's refresh that. All right, everything still works. So I'm going to say title, actually something test, and click submit. All right, it looks like it refreshed. And I saw it like blink right here with, but how do I prevent it from refreshing? So there, I get that little synthetic whatever, and now it refreshes. How do I prevent the form from acting in its default behavior?
Can't you like override the default somehow?
I heard I can override the default somehow, and then I heard somebody else say something.
I was gonna say almost like an async await, kind of, well, because you have anonymous function, so it shouldn't do it automatically. So I'm not quite sure.
I think Young hit it with event.prevent default open close parent.
Yep. Event.prevent default will prevent the form from acting in its default behavior. So whatever the default behavior is of whatever this form is, prevent default is going to prevent anything from happening. All right. So I'm going to refresh that. And just do typing. Boop. Great. So now the page didn't refresh. It's great. So now let's look in here. Event.target. Awesome. Dot. All right. So there's a way. Where's event.target is elements on here. So I've got event.target.elements. And let's see if I can find anything in here. 0, 1, 2, 3. So it looks like here's that first element, second element. If I look in here, so this is like, so let's go to the first element, open that up, and scroll down. I'm going to click that to open it up more. And now if I go to event.target.elements.first index or index at 0, I can actually see that value there. But that's a lot of like going like nested stuff that in order to just get to that value. There's an easier way to do it, or I think is easier. Wherever the input field is, which is this form control, I'm going to add a name attribute to it. And I'm going to name title. And I'm going to do the same thing for the byline. And I'm going to do the same thing for the abstract. Like so. I'm just going to do event.target. I just want to see if anything shows up there. So if I refresh that, click that, I've got that form. So I event.target, and now I've got the name. So if I do event.target, whatever this name is, that title dot value. Let's see if I can just extract the title value from that. Like so. So if you explicitly give it a name attribute on the input fields, you can extract the values by doing event.target, whatever the name attribute you gave it. That's how you can extract the value. So if I do that, I can extract the value of the form by doing like so. Abstract. All right. So I'm no longer console logging, but let's actually console log the article object just to make sure I get an object with title, byline, an abstract with these values in there. So if I refresh this, this is a title, this is a byline, this is an abstract. And I click submit, I get an object with abstract, byline, and title with the correct values of that. All right. Questions you have about how I went about doing that?
Can we take a quick break?
Yep. Thank you for, I was about to do it, but yes, thank you for telling me when to stop. All right. I'm going to pause. All right. So let's just quickly review kind of what we did. We created this add article API, which takes in an article object, and we're doing a try catch, and we're using async await, and we're doing await fetch, we're passing in the URL endpoint as the first argument. And the second argument is a object that contains a headers, content type, the type of method, so a post request, as well as the body, a body key with the article object, which we're JSON stringifying it. Then once we get that response, we turn that response from JSON to JavaScript right here, and then we just return that data. And we created an add article page. This is the page where we're actually going to be adding the article. And we created a form that takes in 3 inputs, a title, byline, and abstract. And we have a submit button. So inside of this form, when we click the submit button, it executes this on submit attribute that executes this handle form submit function. And we created this handle form submit function. And in this handle form submit function, we extract the title, byline, and abstract from the form and set it to an article object with title, byline, abstract. And now what we have to do is pass that article object to this add article API as an argument. What questions do you have about that process? So up here, we're going to import the add article API from, is it API / article API? And in here, do you want to do async await or .then?
Let's try the .then.
All right. So what we're going to do is run the add article function. So this add article API takes in this article object, which is this now. And then we do .then. And let's just response console log the response, or RESP. Let's just see what that looks like. Because this data might already come back in the format that we want it. All right, so let's come through here and refresh the add article page. So new article, new byline, and new abstract. When I click submit, data is not defined in article API.js line 49. All right, looks like we have an error somewhere.
I think you've seen a let.
Thank you. Let data. Did I delete that or something? Or I don't know.
I think you're just flying through. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and rerun that. Great. So I get this abstract. So this is the response back, which I'm console logging right here. So right here, I'm console logging that. And now we can probably do something with it. So let's see what new site has us do. With that, then, as far as callback, we ultimately want to show a success message when an article is submitted. All right. So how do you want to show a success message when the article is submitted? There's like multiple ways we can do it. After it's submitted, we can automatically reroute to where the new article exists. Or we can just have something up here that says like article successfully submitted. And yeah, what do you want to do? Anybody have a preference?
I don't have a preference, but you can make like a paragraph tag or something like after you check with like a ternary operator, like when you reroute, and then just have it like display, I don't know, new article added, something like that.
Like on this page?
Well, I mean, you could check to see if like that process was if it comes to like a true Boolean,
Okay.
then
Yeah.
yeah, and display it as some kind of tag.
I hear you. So I'm going to use state because I'm going to need to const article submitted. So here this is specifically for whether or not an article has been submitted or not. So set article submitted or article success. That's what I want to call it. Article success. I probably should call it submit article success. But initially it's going to be false. That's the initial value. And down here, once I do that, so once I get the response back, I can say set article success, and I'll set that to true. That's great. And then down here, and maybe instead of showing the form, this is where I'll do a Boolean value. I'll say like article success. If it's the opposite of the success, there we go. Display a form. So this is where if it's a new article. Otherwise, I'll do an alert actually.
I was going to suggest that.
Article successfully submitted. And let's look at what the alert looks like. So we'll probably want to do this. Is it a variant? So variant, let's do success. So variant equals success. Interesting. Okay. Now, what can we do? All right, my mind's going about other things. We'll keep it simple like that so far. So if the opposite of article success, wait, no. So if this is, so if article success is false, the opposite of that is true. We want to show the form. Otherwise, we'll show the success message. So I'll come over here and refresh this and say, was this successfully submitted? Hopefully, we'll see. And if I click submit, oh no, alert up, dang it. Alert is not defined, alert. All right, let's try this again. Alert, hello, yep. Article successfully submitted. And then if you'd want to do it, you can come over here and let's go down here and see all the different articles that I've kind of been creating. So the other one was successfully submitted. It's just threw an error once it tried to make the alert. Cool. Not too bad. All right. What else can we do? What if, let's actually just keep reading. I'll leave it up to you. So that's how we'll do that part. So has article been, all right, cool. So yeah, it looks like we did that. Let's actually, I want to just add some additional functionality. New article. I'm going to set new article. Article initially is undefined. And I want that, set that to true, and set new article to the response, which is the new article. So this response is actually like the actual new article. And in here, let's see what else we can do. Let's do article successfully submitted. Go to new article. I'm going to make this an A tag. I'm going to make a link to this. Link to that. And href. What do we got? Articles / new article .id. Oh, I need that. There we go. So if I come back here, let's go to new article.
I think it's add article is how you passed it.
Yeah, there you go. Does this work? Hopefully. Let's find out. All right, what do we got? Cannot read property ID of undefined. Our new article ID. So what do you think's happening right there?
Doesn't have that article object available to it.
Yeah.
No,
It probably doesn't quite yet. So
would you want to like instantiate that as like a state? Like the whole object? Is that a thing you can do?
yeah, you probably can. Yeah. Let's see. I don't want to get into that right now just because we're just adding additional features, but there's something you can do there to like create an actual link to that article. So just think about it. All right. All right. So let's just keep going. And I'll probably refactor it later just for that to actually work. Again, we'll want to, so we got to create a login page. After you have the UI, attach an event listener to the form on submit event in the event handler, and just simply console log the values of the email and password fields. So looks like we don't need any more of that. Inside of pages, let's go ahead and login page.js, RCS, and let's do an H1 tag, login page. It's great. And let's come over here to the app.js. We have to create a route to that. Route, let's go to login page. And the component we want to render is a login page. And I clicked enter, and it probably imported it directly at the top right here already for me. So let's come over here and just make sure everything still works. And now let's go to /login. And now we've got that login page. I'm going to use React Bootstrap's forms again. We already kind of have one right here for us, so that's really nice. So let's go ahead and use that in our login page. Form. And I'll go ahead and delete those same things that I did before. So we don't need this form.text, and we don't need this checkbox either. And now if I come back over here, form is not defined. So we'll need to import form button from React Bootstrap. There we go. We have a bunch of errors. Okay, we got rid of those errors. Let's go ahead and add that class name. Let's add some margin. equals m-2. Let's add that to also our login page h1 header. There we go. It's kind of nice. So now when I enter in email and some password, so the password looks like it's got this type of password, and it's automatically masking what our password is. So up here, we'll create another const handle login function that takes in the event, very similar to that of our add article page. So very similar to that. So I'm just going to copy. So we've got event prevent default, event.prevent default. And now, as I'm extracting the values like the title, byline, and abstract, I'm adding this name attribute to the input. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Instead of title, I'm going to do email. And likewise with the password, I'm just going to call it password because that's what that is. And now I can do const, or what is it it want me to do? Just console log. So just simply console log those values. So I'm just going to console log event.target.email.value and also password. And now in order to actually, when I click submit, I can run the on submit and run this handle login method. There we go. So compiled successfully. Now, if I refresh this and say like tom@email.com and type in 123 and click submit, I get console logged tom@email.com. Oh, it looks like when I submit it, it still submits it, but I want to add some validation to these fields. I can do that by inside this type email, this form control. If I read through the documentation, it looks like I can add some, where is it? I can make it larger. That's kind of cool. Let's see. I can add default values, read only is required. So yeah, it looks like I can add some native validations by running just this required field or this required attribute on the form control. So where it says type, I can literally just put required right there. And if I don't type anything in there, it'll say, please fill out this field. If I fill that out, oh, look at us, also has some attributes because it's an email field. So I have to have email.com. Please fill out this field. And there we go. What questions do you have about creating the login page? None? All right. Let's actually add some buttons up here because I can't get to the add article page or the login page from the nav bar. I want to add those buttons up there. So I'm going to open up the, not that, app nav. And in here, looks like I already have a button there. So inside the nav, I'm going to create a button that says login. And I'm going to give it a variant And this is all just React Bootstrap outline primary. I'm going to give it a class name of mx-2. And when I click on that, I'm going to make it go to an href/login like so. Let's see if this works. So I've got that login button. Now if I click, it goes to my login page. It's not too bad. And now let's do the same thing for add article. Let's change, what is it, warning? No, let's just do secondary. Add article. There we go. Add article goes to the article, add article page. Login goes to the login page. There we go. What questions do you have about the add article page, the login page? Nothing? Anybody? All right. So secondary objectives, if you haven't noticed, there's a bit of flaw on our add article component. There is no error handling. If you go to the add article page, leave all the form fields empty and submit, the API request to submit the article will fail, but no message is portrayed. Let's see what they're talking about. So I'm at the add article page. I don't have those required fields for the input forms. So let's just, I'm going to open up the article API because I might have to add some error handling in here. So if I go to add article and just click submit, it says article successfully submitted, but I get an error here in my post right there. And if I come down here, obviously I'm not submitting an empty article. So with that, let's go ahead and in our article API, let's see what this data looks like before it gets returned. Console log data. Let's see what it looks like when it's successfully submitted. I think obviously it just returns the article, but let's see what the data looks like when it's an error. So let's go to add article and click submit. Looks like, is that right? Let's see. Ooh. Data. Let's actually just return that data. Let's as is. And let's console log the article here because that's what it should be returning as. So if I refresh that and click submit, here we go. Here's what I should be getting. Error status code right here. So this is what happens when I get an error. I get an error object with details message naming. All right. So return. All right. So that's what that is. So if I get data-error, so down here, I can say await. Oh, let's do await. And I just want to see if I can actually get that to show up down here to make sure I have access to it. So if I refresh that, there we go. I didn't put the await there. I forgot to put the await there because initially this data was console logging before the response was converting. So that's why I was getting that promise pending, but I added that await there. So this following line waits for this previous line to execute. So it looks like if I say if data.error, so I can do some error handling here. If data.error, I can return something. I can return, an article. Let's see what we can return. I'm just going to return an object that says message on it. And it says data.air message. And I'm just going to add a status code just because why not? Because 200. Else, I can just return data. So if I get an error message, I'm going to return a message with a status code of 200. Otherwise, I'm just going to return the correct response. Or I can even just say article successfully created, because I want to kind of show you what this looks like. So here's where kind of things kind of get kind of fun. This is going to be the response again. And I'm going to console log the response right here. So if I refresh that, I click submit, I get right here, the article instance is not valid. Can't be blank, blah, 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 blah. I'll just say, instead of airing the message, I'm going to say there was an error saving your message. So if I click submit, there was an error saving your message. I'll say like try again. Please make sure all fields are filled. Something like that. So I'm getting that response right here. So if I click that, there's an error saving your message. Please make sure all fields are filled. But here it says article successfully submitted. But if I actually submit an article successfully, I get articles successfully created. So I'm getting a message back. I'm going to set that response message to state. And up here, I'm going to just make it undefined or null initially. And inside of this alert, article, instead of calling it article success, I'll just call it message. Set message. I'm just doing some refactoring. Is error. Set is error to false. I'm going to add it just for, I'm going to say is error on here. I'm going to set that to true. Because I'm going to use this data that's coming back from this API false. Set that to message. Set is error to is error. So I've got two set message. I've got two things of state, set message and set is error, or message and is error. And then down here, I'm going to put the message down here. So message, and I'm going to do some ternary saying like if is error is true, yeah, if is error is true, right? am I doing here?
Do you have to string interpolate that, or can you just do it with inside the curly brackets?
So if is error is true, no, this should work. No, yeah, I could just do it all inside the. I'll make it danger, else success. So I'm making the variant dependent on whether it's aired out or not. Where's that coming from? Article success. Oh, is air. Oh, here we go. Is submitted. So whether or not I'll just say if there's a message, right? There we go. So if I just submit this, there's an error saving your message. Please make sure all your fields are filled. If I refresh this and then successfully type in something and then click submit, article successfully created. That's just some error handling. There's an easy way to fix all that is to just make sure that the user can just add this required field to all of them. And that way, whoop. What is that?
You've got a typo. You misspelled required, I think.
Yep. Thank you. So, yeah. Anyway. So there's some error handling. So yeah, you can add an error message. And if you really want to look ahead, take a look at the context API. So dependent on what is returned in the JSON response, I'm literally returning to the component a different response, essentially. What questions do you have about just the error handling part or anything that I went through? Nothing. All right. That I will